All right, listeners, I think you know that we are part of the Radiotopia network, which is basically a network built on the idea that you should support the most creative, independent audio makers around. No one, and I mean no one, embodies the Radiotopia ethos more than Benjamin Walker and his show Theory of Everything. Benjamin, who I've known for a long time, has been making beautiful, personal, sprawling audio documentaries for decades that help us understand the very strange world we live in. And now he has a new series called Not All Propaganda is Art. The new series goes back to the 1950s when Western security agencies like the CIA paid artists, writers, and intellectuals to fight the cultural Cold War.
The CIA funds were free. I mean, no one was told what to say.
Gloria Steinem, activist who sees the CIA as a sort of enlightened pal or rich uncle, there is another viewpoint.
Look, if you're listening to this show, I know you like secret histories. I know you like a mix of culture and politics and shadowy figures. So what are you waiting for? Not All Propaganda is Art from Benjamin Walker. You can find it now wherever you listen or at theoryofeverythingpodcast.com. This episode is brought to you by Progressive. Progressive helps you compare direct auto rates from a variety of companies so you can find a great one, even if it's not with them. Quote today at Progressive.com to find a rate that works with your budget. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Hello and welcome to This Day in Esoteric Political History from Radiotopia. My name is Jody Avirgan. This day, March 8th, 1985. Step Aside, One More Night by Phil Collins. Take a Back Seat, Relax by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Your Time Is Up, Private Dancer by Tina Turner. Because those were all hit songs in March 1985, but now a new hit song is on the scene, one with a message, one that was going to bring the biggest stars on the planet together to tell us in no uncertain terms that, quote, we are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true. We'll make a better day. Just you and me. So now I've planted that earworm in your heads, listeners. And it was everywhere in March of 1985 and throughout much of the rest of the summer of 1985. This, of course, is the song We Are the World. Basically, every big name, we'll read the full list, getting together to sing a song for a group, USA for Africa, which I didn't know the acronym was United Support of Artists for Africa. And this was an effort to sing a song and raise awareness about the famine in Ethiopia. And, you know, this is a punchline, I think, and we will have fun with this and so forth. But really, you know, raising awareness about a genuine important issue and raising a lot of money around this issue as well. So very interesting and complicated and also absurd and over the top and worthy of a little bit of scorn. So we will do all of that right now on this episode with, as always, Nicole Hammer of Columbia and Kellie Carter-Jackson of Wellesley. Hello there.
Hello, Jody.
Hey there. I thought for sure we were going to all start singing a 3-part harmony.
I know. I was thinking that, and then I was like, maybe this will happen. Then I was like, oh, I'm kind of glad this isn't happening. And so forth. But maybe our listeners are
glad it's not happening.
But, you know, yeah. So I don't know. Where do you want to start? You want to start serious, or do you want to start with the big hair and the absurdity? And, you know, I mean, I think you have memories of hearing this song sort of burst out.
I do.
Yeah. I mean, you would have been as well. I mean, I think all three of us would have been pretty young when this came out. Yeah. But it became such a standard, right? Even though it wasn't, let's put it out there, not the greatest song ever composed. But it's something that would be played over and over again. So I could probably recite all of the lyrics of this song, even though, you know, I was like 5 or 6 when it came out.
Yeah, I can recall as a child, I think, mimicking this song and like holding my hand to my ear like they all did with with their earpieces or whatever. I mean, it was just, I always thought of it as kind of cliche or kind of corny. But at the same time, all of my favorite recording artists were in it. And so because of that, I appreciated the solidarity, I suppose.
It holds that interesting place where it's like, do you remember it, or do you remember the parodies that showed up on SNL about it over the years, or do you remember all the sort of jokes and memes that have still persisted? And so it's like it all melds together, whether you actually remember the thing itself or whether you remember the sort of mocking or the after, you know. And there were we can get into this, but there were sequels that It failed spectacularly as well. But yes, this is the rise of MTV, and we have a music video with every big name, and they filmed the sessions. And let's talk a little bit about how this came together. But they filmed the sessions, and so you see all these big stars gathered together. And I'm just going to start reading these names, but I mean, these are the people in order of appearance in the song. They all get like one line, right? Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, Paul Simon, Kenny Rogers, James Ingram, Tina Turner, Billy Joel, Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, Dionne Warwick, Willie Nelson, Bruce Springsteen, Kenny Loggins, and then, Huey Lewis, Cyndi Lauper, Bob Dylan, Ray Charles, and then they throw in people like Dan Aykroyd's there. Why not? Dan Aykroyd.
Sure. Why?
LaToya Jackson, Marlon Jackson, Randy Jackson.
LaToya Jackson.
Bette Midler's there. Yeah. The Pointer Sisters, Smokey. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And yeah, I think the video is like in a lot of people's heads because everyone just gets one little line. Everyone gets to kind of do their thing, and everyone is sort of the perfect version of themselves. I don't know if you want to sort of mention some of those. I mean, to me, the one that is often funny is like Bob Dylan being like totally checked out for a variety of reasons, but being like, what have I gotten myself into? And then other people like really, really into it. Very, very earnest.
So extra.
And Bob Dylan maybe not being the vocalist for this kind of song that you would choose.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, you see the like Michael Jackson obviously goes for it, and Tina Turner goes for it.
Yes, and Quincy Jones is sort of the conductor of it all. I mean, and it's so funny because all of these are huge stars, especially in this moment. They're big stars in that moment. And so when you think about the fact that like there's a sign on the door that says check your egos at the door, so every person is kind of reining in their voice. I mean, you would expect someone to like scrawl or like go on this big like swing. That doesn't happen. Everyone sort of sticks to the script a little bit, and it makes the song a little bit unremarkable in that way because there's not this lead singer or soloist that's going to take the song to another height or whatever. It just stays at this very like monotone high school choir, no shade high schools, but like, like sort of performance that doesn't really get at the heart or the soul or the feeling that you would want from stars like this.
That's interesting. You don't think there's these little moments of runs and interesting like flair and so forth? I mean, I suppose it could have been that way, but I don't know. I feel like it's as much a story of people like try to take
not in the way that I would expect like a Tina Turner to sort of take the mic and just like go off. She doesn't do that.
Right.
Because they get like 9 syllables at most.
Yeah.
So even though they can put all the shine on it that they want, they're not getting a lot of airtime.
Yeah.
We should talk about the creation of the song, because that in and of itself is super interesting. It's written by some of the top stars at the time, Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie. They write it in Michael Jackson's bedroom. There's this crazy story that Lionel Richie tells about there being no bed in the bedroom, but he hears the sound while they're sitting there writing of like, sss, and there's a big ass snake in the room that Michael Jackson's like, oh, that's where he was. He was hiding behind the records. And Lionel Richie's like, I'm from Alabama. We kill snakes. We don't keep them as pets. So there's a lot of drama behind the scenes. Anyway, so they write this song, and nobody's really heard it before the recording session. They just get all of these people together in LA after the American Music Awards. And for many of them, it's the very first time that they've seen the song, and they recorded all that night.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, too, that the artists aren't really excited about the song either. Like they're kind of like, this is a little saccharine. I think Cyndi Lauper says this sounds like a Pepsi commercial. They also joke that it sounds like a high school chorus. They're not necessarily feeling the energy that that they're trying to convey with the song, but they go along with it, and I think that's something. But they're not everybody's on board with the powerfulness of the song.
There's a great oral history. It's like sort of a minute-by-minute breakdown of the song. Niki, I know you went deep on this, but like any other little tidbits that stuck out to you about the song itself? And then we'll talk about the sort of larger cause and the sort of what it says about this moment in cultural history.
Well, you should absolutely read it. For me, the person who stands out in it is Cyndi Lauper. Like the producer has to say halfway through, you're wearing a lot of bracelets. And if anybody knows Cyndi Lauper, she's like draped in all of this jingly jewelry that's being picked up. But there's this really interesting moment where Michael Jackson like throws some nonsense syllables in at the end of one of the choruses, and somebody raises the objection. They're like, that's going to sound like you're making fun of African languages. And so somebody else looks up a phrase in Swahili so they can get it right and actually be accurate. And Cyndi Lauper is like, they don't speak Swahili in Ethiopia. I mean, this is like singing a song in German to help out the British people. It doesn't make any sense. So they have this, at like 3 a.m., this big argument about, whether they're misappropriating the African languages.
Yeah. So I suppose that gets us a little into the sort of bigger question here of celebrity, paternalism. Well, one thing that's interesting to me is this was organized, we talked about the writers, but it looked, Harry Belafonte was really a driving force here. And this was done in part in response to a song, Do They Know It's Christmas, which I think is even sketchier and more paternalistic. Yeah. And that was in the UK, but that was by Band-Aid. And then Harry Belafonte has the idea to do this, an American version of that, and gather all these people together. Harry Belafonte, like, tried and true social activist, knows what it means to fight for a cause. And so what is the mix, Kellie? Again, this is something we've talked about with the Oprah thing, too, where she, like, opens a school in Africa, and it has, like, this, like, yes, you're doing good, but it also has this weird paternalistic dynamic to it.
It's
so like
where
do you...
poverty porn. I feel like in a lot of ways, let me say this. The intent is there. I think there's a desire for a resolution or reparations or some sort of remedy to come about when it comes to poverty and when it comes to, these global crises. But the way that people go about trying to solve these problems feels very ineffective. And especially for those who are living in Ethiopia are like, this song, it's not going to cut it, right? It's not putting food on the table. Right. It is not addressing systemic or structural problems. The song is not even an indictment, right? Like, it's not like, like What's Going On or by Marvin Gaye or something like that, where they're calling out these things that are the causes of famine and the political crisis around Ethiopia or colonization. There's not even that discussion that's being had, which is why this sort of saccharine song doesn't really address any of the larger issues. And so it feels unnecessary and in some ways offensive because it does not solve any problems. And it raises money, and I think that that's helpful or draws attention. But you could also say that, like, it looks at Africa in the same sort of National Geographic way that's like, oh, look at all the poor Africans. You get a lot of those stereotypes coming out in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get some of that actually in discussions with the artists themselves, because one of the artists, as they're recording this, says, hey, why aren't we doing anything about poverty and hunger in America? And so actually the idea for Farm Aid, which is the spinoff of this that deals with American poverty, grows out of this moment. But yeah, it's exactly right, Kellie, that there isn't, it calls attention to it. It raises awareness. It raises money, but it doesn't finish the sentence, right? It doesn't say this is happening because, again, better than Band-Aid. Ethiopians did know it's Christmas. They're largely Christian, but, not quite all the way there.
Yeah. And this is also a larger era in music history and cultural history of the sort of like big celebrity concert. Like you said, we have Farm Aid and Live Aid and
doesn't Bono do
so
something?
Forth. And so, like,
doesn't he have his Red campaign?
Yeah,
Bono does a lot of things.
That's a lot. That's a little later, but it's the same vibe, I would say. But yes, like the late 80s into the 90s is when a lot of this sort of stuff pops up, and that has a lot to do with kind of the nature of the music industry and so forth. I mean, right now, for a variety of reasons, we're just so fractured that like this stuff it wouldn't work now. But also, like, I think, Kellie, like you were saying, I mean, it is one of the things I think counts as like genuine progress is the way we think about aid and support and charity and all of those things. And and I do think like there are lots of, generally speaking now, people ask those serious questions about, is this reinforcing some of these deeper structural issues? Is this really addressing those structural issues? Is this including the people that we are ostensibly trying to help?
Is this helpful? And is this useful? And where's the money going? Where's the money really going?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I think none of those questions were necessarily being asked back then, or largely weren't. And they do tend to get asked now. And I think that counts as genuine progress. And I mean, you also see it like when that video went around at the beginning of the pandemic of all those celebrities singing Imagine, right? And like immediately mocked. And people were just like, this isn't us anymore. This may have worked in 86 or whatever, but this just isn't the way to address these things anymore.
Yeah, you're not going to solve anything with the song. And I think that that's become evidently clear, in our world today. But back then, I think people did believe that it would start a conversation, or that it would get people to be empathetic or just aware of what's happening around the world. But I don't think it did much beyond that.
Yeah. So it raised about $140 million in today's. Yeah. That's not nothing, right? And I mean, I don't think it solved structural problems that led to famine in Ethiopia, but it's not nothing. And I think there's probably questions about how much of that money actually worked its way to the right organizations, et cetera, et cetera. But, to that point, I mean, I'm not, at least, well, I'm curious where you're at, but, I'm not like dismissive entirely of celebrities having causes and using their platforms, right? I mean, I think, whatever small platform I try and use. And I think like I admire celebrities who use their platform, speak out, but when they do it authentically, when it feels like they're empowering people and they're addressing all these things. So it's like, yeah, again, it's a frustrating answer, but it's just like, you just got to do it the right way.
Yeah, it has to be authentic. I think that is the key. If you know that these celebrities are committed to this, that they are aware of all of the issues, that they have studied this history, that they have sought out real answers, then when they get to the microphone, we don't distrust them, right? We believe what they say, and we can sort of see it backed up. But I think this kind of felt like, hey, you're in LA, I'm in LA, we're all in LA, let's record this song.
And then never think about Ethiopia again.
Yes. Right. I think what also makes me feel so uncomfortable about this is while people are singing, you're getting images or footage of starved Ethiopian children, of distended bellies, of flies flying around their faces, all of the stereotypes. And I shouldn't say stereotypes because these things did happen, right? This famine was real. People were dying. But I think it reinforces the notion that Africa is this primitive place. Africa is this place that has nothing you would ever want, and that we should feel bad for these people. And we have a sense of superiority, I would even say, over how these people have lived their lives. And there's just so much damage that's done when you present the single story narrative of one place as one thing and as only one thing, that we're still trying to recover from.
Yeah, the way that it sort of, and you would see this in commercials throughout the 80s and 90s, those very same images, and it's meant to pull at your heartstrings and open your pockets, but it's not meant to trigger any sense of recognition that these are people, like you are people, and to help you see the fuller lives, as you were saying, Kellie, that people leave, that they're not just this one moment of tragedy, that they're all of these other things, and it's worth knowing all of those other things and seeing all of those other things.
Yeah, I don't even think it compels us to ask why. Like, why is this happening? Who is their leader? You know what I mean? Like, what are the larger geopolitical factors at play? Those questions are not being asked or answered. And so it leads people to draw their own conclusions. Oh, this must be happening because you aren't capable of making your life better.
Or this is just normal. This is just what people's lives are like.
Right,
Yeah.
That also makes me think, my gosh, I didn't realize until just now, but Band-Aid is such a like, that's actually what it is, right? Yeah. Let's just put a Band-Aid over this. Like, it did not occur to me until
advertising.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. But it's like, I didn't realize how actually insidious that notion was until just now. Yeah, that notion of authenticity is so important in terms of when someone speaks out. And it's almost interesting to me. I mean, like, I think raising money is important. And it's almost like, sometimes I feel like the most authentic ones are not the ones where it's raising money. It's like raising, and I know this is such a mushy term, but it's like raising awareness and just getting people to think critically about something. And then if like something else comes along that nudges them towards taking action, raising money, volunteering or whatever. But it's like I find those the most compelling when it just shows, like you were saying, Kellie, like, oh, this person just cares about this issue. And what they're doing is expressing that they care about this issue and that their audience should too, and trust that their audience, that will nudge them towards maybe the audience learning and caring and so forth.
Yeah.
But when it feels a little more cynical, like we're doing this and then the end game is call this number, raise this money, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there should be like, I don't know how you would create something like this, but where you give people just a fact sheet. Like, here's the problem. Here's how it's done. Here's the context. Here's why this matters. Here's what you can do, right? Those things for me, even when it comes to like the Ukraine, crisis, like that to me has been so helpful in just, okay, give me the facts. Let me know what I need to know. Let me know how I can help. Give me something tangible. And then I think people can really reckon with that on their own and be compelled to do something with the knowledge that they have. But because Americans are so insular, we don't think of people outside of America for a lot of us, and we don't think about how these things have real implications on our own lives, or even if they don't have implications on our own lives, why we should care. Getting people compelled to act is a bigger challenge than it is getting them to, like, buy into a song or whatever.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the legacy and the attempts to reboot this or whatever. So January 2010, there's a devastating earthquake in Haiti, and another all-star cast of singers comes together. We Are the World 25 for Haiti, released in February 2010. That again raises money to go to Haiti. Roundly mocked and parodied, and I think probably that marks a little bit of a cultural turning point of being like, no, we're not living in this sort of era anymore. Any other tidbits from either the initial taping or the way that it's sort of lived on in
I mean, it sold a lot. I mean, 20 million copies.
Right.
That's a lot of people buying this record.
And that says as much about the sort of music industry at that time too, that just like it's such a behemoth, right?
I think it also speaks to a kind of optimism, and we would probably say naivete now, but the 90s would emerge as such a cynical, if not nihilistic era, and the idea of doing something like this in the Seinfeld era, like, it's going to get mocked the second you release it. And you see that with the Haiti earthquake effort and with the Imagine song. So it really is of a moment, and it reflects, again, something that's pretty naive, not super well informed, but an optimism and a belief that you really could change things through something like a song.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we wrap up, I did in the intro mention all the other songs that knocked off. It is worth giving Phil Collins a little bit of credit here, because We Are the World actually didn't reach number one for a while because Phil Collins's One More Night was such a massive hit, and it like checked, they thought it was like a pop song and a rock song, and it was just like, and so it actually took a long time for this song to knock One More Night off of the top perch, but it eventually did in the top 100 charts, and was as we are saying, a massive song. All right, well, that is a good place to end it, and listeners, we're going to play the song as we go out. Apologies. You will have it stuck in your head. You will have the images of Cyndi Lauper and Bob Dylan and Stevie Wonder. And oh, by the way, Ray Charles, apparently all the reports are like, all of these celebrities, the one celebrity they were in awe of was Ray Charles. It tells you how amazing Ray Charles was, that everyone was like, when Ray Charles speaks, we listen. We're all excited to be here with Ray Charles. Like, that's a nice little, tidbit from this. But anyway, you have those images in your head. You will have the song in your ears very shortly. But Nicole Hemmer, thanks to you as always.
Thank you, Jody.
And Kellie Carter-Jackson, thanks to you.
My pleasure.
We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true, we make a better day. Just you and me.
Support for This Day in Esoteric Political History comes from Odoo. If you feel like you're wasting time and money with your current business software, or just want to know what you could be missing, then you'll need to join the millions of others who have switched to Odoo. Odoo is the affordable, all-in-one management software with a library of fully integrated business applications that help you get more done in less time for a fraction of the price. To learn more, visit odoo.com/thisday. That's odoo.com/thisday. Odoo, modern management made simple.
Radiotopia. From